JSON materialized views. I'm putting this in here because a good friend of mine, Tim Hall, anyone that's used Oracle for any length of time knows the incredible oracle-base.com website with a myriad of articles and how-tos and guides for all sorts of amazing Oracle things. And Tim reached out to me because he's been playing with the materialized views in Oracle 19. And 19c, as he said, boasts the ability for query rewrite to occur on JSON materialized views. His demo scripts couldn't get it to work. He reached out to me. I'd love to say that I just went, oh yes, this is the answer. But no, I had to do a lot of investigation. I tried a few things, and which I'll show you shortly. And I also reached out to the people that own the technology inside the company. And after a little bit of back and forth, we nutted it out, and I thought I'd share it with you now. I'm using actually the scripts you can find on Tim's site. So if you search for JSON 19c, you'll find pretty much these scripts. I simply grabbed them from Tim's demo to make them nice and consistent, so you could follow along as well. I've got a table here called JSON documents, and I've inserted some JSON data into it. So far, so good. What I'd like to do is have a materialized view that can give me some performance advantages, because let's face it, diving into a complicated JSON structure and pulling out the fragments and turning it into relational data is a CPU expensive and costly process. If I could have a materialized view do that once, then ideally queries should be able to rewrite to take advantage of that. Here's an example of what we've done. We've got our JSON documents table, and using the JSON table expression, we can actually, for lack of a better term, relationalize, I'm not even sure that's a real word, but convert our JSON structure into relational data. There's our materialized view. I want it to be query rewrite, so I'll put that on line 3. And you can see it, when I query my materialized view, it has produced now a relational version of that JSON data. So that's pretty cool in its own right. But obviously, I don't want to have to go tell all my developers, oh, by the way, when you want to do a JSON table expression expansion, make sure you use the materialized view because that'll be quicker. That's what we want query rewrite to do for us. So we flushed the shared pool, and this was Tim and my own first attempt at this. We're querying just the attributes from the JSON documents that are already in the materialized view. So there's my result. Did it rewrite? No. No reference to the materialized view in there. It just queried JSON documents. So it worked fine, but it didn't get the performance benefits that we were after. Then we tried some, let's try other ways. And the reason I put these in there is if you're ever trying to dig into why materialized views don't rewrite, or in fact, any kind of problem that isn't working as you'd expect. I got these from Tim's site, but in particular, it's just a show of the thought process of find different variations as to what might be the cause of the problem. So the first query we use in the dot notation, maybe that's an issue. So now we've resorted to using JSON value to see if that fixes it. It's the same query. I'm using JSON value. Did that get rewritten? Unfortunately not. Then maybe we need to get the data types exactly right. So you can see here we've extended the JSON value commands to actually have returning number, returning varchar2, etc. Maybe that's the secret to getting rewrite. And unfortunately, no. The obvious thing is, well, let's run the query that is exactly the same as the definition of the materialized view. If anything was ever going to be rewritten, it would be a query that matches 1-for-1 with the definition of the materialized view. So we did that. And not even that got rewritten. So you can see the thought process that Tim was going through here and myself. I continued on with a few other options. I thought maybe it's only rewrite occurs if I gather stats, so that stats are available to the optimizer. Maybe I need to set query rewrite integrity to trust it, to give the optimizer a little bit more looseness in terms of whether it chooses to rewrite. And nope, that didn't rewrite either. Still the same problem. So then I thought, what happens when we normally have a problem with query rewrite, whether it's JSON or anything else? We normally use the dbms enview explain enview command, and we can pass in the materialized view. You have to pre-create a table to do that. That's the table created you can see at the top there. That's Oracle Home RDMS admin exp enview.sql, I think. Unfortunately, I echoed it out in the demo. But I run that. Oh, here we go. And I look at my enview capabilities table. And this is really frustrating because it actually says, yep, all the rewrite facilities are available to you. At which point I'm like pulling what hair I have left out of my head going, it says it'll rewrite. I've given it 10 different attempts to rewrite it and the damn thing won't rewrite. So then I thought, well, maybe it has to be huge. Maybe it has to be attractive to the optimizer for a rewrite. So I cranked up the number of rows and number of blocks to make these objects huge. So the optimizer would have a vested interest in rewriting them. And nothing. So at this point, things weren't looking so good. In fact, I skipped over one thing. You may have just picked it up, maybe not. I even had the rewrite hint in there to force a rewrite, and it didn't. At this point, I was ready to give up. And so I thought, well, let's go back to first principles. And I reached out to some people inside Oracle. They said, query rewrite integrity is not an issue. Set that back to default. I've dropped the materialized view. This is the critical thing. Look in my columns definition. For any column to be eligible for a query rewrite, they must be defined in the JSON table to be error on error and null on empty. Those settings must be provided. Otherwise, those columns are not eligible for query rewrite. But so I ran a query, the original query that Tim was trying to rewrite, using our nice flexible dot notation, because we have the on error, on null, etc. definitions. There we go. We actually got the materialized view rewrite involved in there to actually pick up the information. So that's pretty cool. And that solves Tim's problem. So let's go back to the notes. Unfortunately, that information is not currently in the documentation. So these are the rules you need to be aware of. One thing is, this is quite interesting, is if the materialized view is defined as a refresh on statement, you don't need the enable query rewrite. It can just happen anyway, which I thought was quite interesting. The materialized view must be created with a refresh status on statement. That's the only ones that'll be rewritten. You have with rarity or with primary key as per normal. The definition must be a simple join between the master table and one JSON table, and the only JSON table columns with error on error, null and empty are used for rewrite. That's obviously the critical part that Tim had missed in his examples. But there's a whole stack of things it can rewrite. I didn't show them in the demo, but it rewrites JSON exists, it rewrites JSON value, and even the simplified dot syntax. Full JSON table rewrite is coming later. There are some restrictions on what are there. Sadly, those 4 things are not currently in the documentation. They will get there, hopefully, in due course.